Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. So I just have one quick announcement. I've been holding off and sort of learning for quite a while before I took action on this. But I'm about to finish my undergraduate degree in podiatry. And all this time I have been sort of studying, learning, literally talking to the best people in the world about this kind of stuff, about hypertrophy, about bodybuilding, about losing fat, muscle, etc. So I am now offering coaching. This has been a long time coming. I am very, very excited to start doing this. In the past, I didn't think I could handle it. Right now, I think I can, and I know after I finish my degree, I can definitely handle more. So I'm taking a few more clients on. I have a few currently that are sort of kept quite low-key. But yeah, I'm taking a few more clients on. The link will be in the show notes of this podcast, or if you'd want to find the link another way, go to at James Walsham, James_Walsham on Instagram, or at the Hypertrophy Hub. And right now, coaching is very, very cheap, just because I need to get my sort of experience up. I need to actually get some clients, all that sort of stuff. So it is like ridiculously cheap. I'm basically giving this shit away. I'm not going to disclose the price. If you'd like to know the price, message me through Instagram or something like that. But yeah, anyway, thank you guys so much for listening to this podcast and supporting me. I really, really appreciate it. We've been having some absolutely insane growth recently. And yeah, thank you so much. I hope you enjoy this podcast. It's a very, very...
People are constantly raising the bar.
Sacrifices need to be made.
What would you guys say are your biggest weaknesses?
You or your enemy right now?
The success of life.
Just a fucking podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to the Hypertrophy Hustle Show. This week I'm speaking to Miguel Blacutt. So hopefully you know of him. If you've heard of my lovely friend Revive Stronger, you've hopefully heard of him definitely. He's also been doing some work with Lane Norton. He's very, very out there, very well known. He makes some amazing infographics. He does some fantastic work in education as well. So he's also a Revive Stronger coach, which is very, very cool. Great company. So Miguel, in terms of what you're doing now, you're very involved in academia. You're very involved in sort of some entrepreneurial pursuits. Is there anything in terms of your educational background? What was the general storyline there?
Awesome. So first of all, thank you very much for having me on. My education began, the journey really began in high school. So I graduated top of my class in high school. I had, I had 100% in every class. I had even 105% classes in some classes where the professors literally got in trouble because the school board were like, no, you can't give them 105%. So when you do that, pretty much what everyone tells you to do is, okay, well, now you have to be either an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer, right? So I kind of let myself get persuaded by that. And when I first entered university, I wanted to become a biomedical engineer. And so I entered university with a scholarship for biomedical engineering and did that for 2 years. And I did really well in that, don't get me wrong. However, there was just no passion behind that. There was nothing there that was keeping the fire going. It was just something that I did for the prestige, and I was just quite miserable in it. Then on the side, what I would do is I would just read peer-reviewed research on topics of exercise, nutrition, human physiology, some neuroscience stuff. I was just so in love with human physiology and exercise and nutrition, and would spend all my free time reading about these topics. At one point, I remember I was just listening to the BioLane video logs when he used to do those back in the day. And he said something that stuck with me. And that was that if you're only pursuing the end result, if you're only pursuing the salary, the degree, the whatever it is, you're never going to truly be happy. To truly be happy, you have to do something where you enjoy the grind, where you enjoy the hard work. And that just stuck with me. And it stuck with me so much that it's where I decided, hey, like I'm not happy at all. Like all I want is to get my degree and then do a job that I'm probably going to hate because I don't really like doing this type of work. So then I decided, okay, well, I'm going to transfer. And I decided to transfer to McGill University, which is the best university in Canada, to study nutritional science. And specifically, I wanted to specialize in nutritional biochemistry. So now, as of this year, in May, I have graduated from McGill with my Bachelor's of Science in Nutritional Biochemistry, and I am now attending Columbia University, getting my master's degree in applied physiology. Specifically, it's going to be applied exercise physiology.
And I think it's quite I can imagine a scary transition, but I can imagine it sort of felt like the right thing to do. It's like Like, I'm currently doing a degree in podiatry. I like podiatry. It's kind of similar to what I want to do, but it's not like exactly what I want to do. You cannot apply hypertrophy to podiatry at all. You just cannot. Like, that would be a big, big, big stretch of your scope of practice. And I definitely think it's incredibly common, the amount of people that will pick a degree, especially if they're pretty intelligent. I can definitely, like, do you think that you're sort of like, okay, intelligent at a young age, do good in school, and then they're pushed into a degree that they pretty much don't like at all?
Absolutely. And I think that when I went into biomedical engineering 5 years ago, this field of nutrition and sports science still wasn't as big. Like, now you get a degree or you get a PhD in nutritional science, and that means something. People respect that. Within our field, that's huge. But back then, the only one that had a PhD in this stuff was Dr. Lane Norton. And yeah, we looked up to him, but you can't just base a decision off what one really cool guy is doing. So it was really scary. And when I graduated high school, I had never even considered doing something in the realm of nutrition and exercise. But then as I just saw how much I loved it, it didn't make sense for me to spend several hours studying something just because I want the degree and the salary. And then another thing, because I love it so much. My thought was, hey, if I love this so much, then you know what? I'm going to do so well that I'm going to get even a better salary than something that I hated so much, and I'm going to love it while doing it.
Exactly, and I think that's the thing. It's like, especially right now in exercise, it's like it is so scalable. It's like, okay, an unlimited amount of people potentially can listen to this podcast. You can, like, online coaching you can cover a lot more ground, I would say, with more quality than you can in person personal training. It's like we have so much freedom now, and especially, like, if you take someone who's incredibly smart in exercise science, we can actually use that now, which is like, it's fantastic to see. And in terms of like that switch, did you get backlash? Like, was it like your parents or whoever? Were they like, oh, what are you doing? You know, you'll earn less money? Because I think exercise science is commonly seen as not as prestigious as a lot of other things, but people don't even understand the lines that exercise science can cover.
Mm-hmm. So at first, because I was at a point where I was just not happy, let's say like a year before I wanted to make the switch, I kind of had the idea in my head that I'm really not happy here, but it wasn't quite such a tangible thing. And then as I just became more unhappy with engineering, my parents were just like, do what makes you happy, because they saw that I was genuinely not happy with the degree and doing work that I didn't quite care so much about. So then by the end of it, they're just like, you know what, like, the most important thing is for you to be happy right now. And also around this time, like, my name started to become a little bit more well known. So they also just gave me the go ahead of like, yeah, you can really do something cool here. It also helps the fact that, on my mom's side, my grandmother actually was in fitness her whole life. She owned the largest chain of gyms in South America. Then she got a stroke and they had to sell the whole franchise. But so my mom grew up in a gym. Like, her playpen was literally inside of a gym. So I also grew up in a gym. So then when I wanted to make the switch to things that were nutrition and training related, my family was already more familiar with how much you can scale that, how much you can do if you own a good chain of gyms or sell good exercises and stuff like that. Versus I'm guessing that a lot of people out there, their parents might have no idea about how big fitness can be and how respectable you can be within the fitness industry.
And would you also say exercise science is definitely getting more respect as a field? Like, we're actually, it's getting to the point where, like, you talk to someone, you're like, okay, this guy has a PhD in exercise science, he knows his shit. It's like, okay, we have a worldwide epidemic of obesity. Like, this is kind of pretty crucial now. And it's like, if we can figure out how to scale and fix these problems, I would say it's rivaling some of the biggest problems we have. And would you say it's getting more respect, or it's sort of at the level where if you say, yeah, I do exercise science or I do nutritional science, people will give you more respect than maybe they would have 5 or 10 years ago?
I think that definitely we're starting to get more respect. I think that as we're starting to see just how preventative nutrition and exercise can be, and even help to treat some outcomes, which I can talk about in a little bit because I'm going to begin research on that. I think that people are starting to see quite how exercise can be so powerful. And when looking at studies coming out from kinesiology departments and health science departments and exercise departments from various universities. For example, like McMaster University, where their research is pretty much like 50-50 athletic and clinical populations. We're really starting to see how we can use exercise science and kinesiology to improve the lives of many people, whether it is improving the life of an athlete trying to become more elite, trying to prevent big neuromuscular disorders through exercise, or trying to use exercise to prevent things like mental illness or some bad outcomes of addiction.
And I think it's crazy how much, like, when you first get into this, right, you first start lifting weights and you sort of think about this stuff. It's like, okay, everyone's just a meathead. Everyone just wants to get jacked and that's it. But it's like, okay, the amount of depth that I've realized the people in this field have, it's like, it's crazy, because it's like, it is one of the most human industries, because all we're trying to do is create change in the human body and do that through a range of means, which I think is quite fantastic. But in terms of your research, what was sort of the upcoming things, and then what is the general story behind that?
So right now I probably have about half a dozen papers in the works. Right now I'm collaborating on research with Yale School of Medicine. I'm collaborating with research on the UT Austin, with UCLA, with the School of Medicine at UCLA. I'm probably going to begin some research with the School of Medicine at Brown University. And of course, I'm doing research with Columbia.
That's fantastic. It's crazy how much, like, it's crazy when you see someone like yourself, and then you see the amount of work output you have. It's insane, because I think I work hard for the average person, and then you see someone like yourself, and it's like, wow, it's like. So two things. Where do you think that comes from? And do you think it's quote unquote healthy?
So actually, I forgot to just mention one thing, and that is that I'm also doing work with CSU Fullerton, specifically with Dr. Andy Galpin. But anyways, this drive to work, I don't quite know where it comes from. From within myself, I just don't feel satisfied unless I'm doing something productive. Like, a lot of people can just chill and watch some Netflix and hang out with their friends and be satisfied. And at first, I was kind of judgmental about that. I'm not going to lie here. I used to look at, some of my peers who just used to go to the bar and have a few beers with their friends, try to, maybe get a girlfriend, something like that. And I'd be like, what are you guys doing? You're just kind of like wasting your life away. What's wrong with you? But now I'm just kind of, I think on a little bit of a wider scope, and that truly makes people happy. And that's 100% fine if that's what truly makes you happy. What truly makes me happy, and what I love most in the entire world, is trying to find answers to unanswered questions, trying to find new ways to look at several different difficult topics, and trying to understand the body in different ways that no one has before. So it's not something that I can switch on or off. I think that a lot of people spend a lot of time talking about this, like switch that they turn on and they go like beast mode or whatever. But for me, it's something that I can't turn off. It's just something that I'm not happy unless I am being productive and I feel like I am contributing something to some sort of field, whether it's exercise, nutrition, or just the biomedical sciences.
I think I can imagine, because I've definitely felt that way before myself, and I'd say kind of a very hard place to be, because it's like I've definitely felt that judgment at others. It's like I felt that, what are you guys doing? Like, you're literally wasting all your time. And it's like, in reality, it's like, okay, most people don't want to live a life of just work. And it's like, I definitely understand that, like, it's like not a compulsion, but it's like why would I not be doing this? It's like why would I just go and play video games for 6 hours? Like, why would I do that? What is the point in that? And I can definitely relate to that. In terms of that, do you think, do you find, is there a time where you're like, shit, I need to chill out? Or do you, because I've definitely been in a position where I haven't ever chilled out, and it's just like, I personally don't think I can handle that, but I'm not sure still. I just think it depends on certain periods of my life. But for you, how do you go about figuring out do you try and enforce time where you do nothing, or is there a specific thing you do to sort of chill out sometimes?
So the funny thing is that I just kind of wait for some glaring signal that I need to chill out. And what will happen is, so I'll kind of start at, probably like a semi-workaholic zone. And in my mind, I'm being totally normal. And then I just like take myself to a new length of studying and working and stuff like that, and just like completely spend all my time doing this stuff. Yeah. And I'll get some like glaring signal, and then I'll just like reset myself, spend like a day watching Netflix, and then kind of go back to it, and then I just kind of restart the cycle. But I have started to kind of listen to my body better and better. I've just kind of started to learn what signals I have that tell me that I need to chill out. For example, before, when I used to just stay up to all times of night and for a couple of weeks and just be in a brain fog state, I used to just kind of ignore that. And then I would like sleep for a weekend and be like, wow, this is what normal people feel like. So now if I just kind of start to get to that area where I'm brain fogged, I'm just like, okay, Miguel, you've been pushing it too much. We're going to go to bed early tonight. Or one thing. So I'm not an anxious person at all. Anxiety is something that I just cannot relate to. But if I work too hard and don't sleep for consecutive nights, I start to get worried about things that I'm like, I shouldn't be worried about this. I never get worried, but I'm getting worried about something. And that to me is a big signal that I need to just kind of spend some time chilling. And then recently what basically happened is that I was getting random spasms in my hand, like my thumb was spazzing out and having particulation. So that lasted for about 10 days, and after about like day 4, I was like, okay, well, this is an early sign of like MS or something. I'd better go get this checked out.
Fucking hell. I think that's crazy, because it's like, okay, you'll just work. Oh shit, yeah, I should stop. It's definitely, man. Do you feel like it's detrimental long term, and another thing, I'm assuming you're familiar with like Gary Vee and all that. Yeah. How much do you think he's kind of like, where do you draw the line in terms of things like sacrificing sleep? Like, do you think it's like, okay, because I think people aren't willing to have the conversation of, okay, yeah, maybe we should all sleep 8 hours a night, but like there's a time, I think, where it's, in some cases you can give up sleep potentially. And I think it's like it's like giving any advice around spines. It's like sacred territory. Don't do it, and I think with sleep, it's like, okay, if you have an assignment the next day and you haven't done it properly, stay up and fucking do it. Take some caffeine and just do it. Like, duh. But it's like, you shouldn't even be in that position in the first place. But like, where do you draw the line of like sleep, and when do you compromise things like that, or athletic endeavors? When do other things get pushed to the side, and is that
right? So
necessary?
When I first started my education in university, and I just kind of had no one to watch over me, there was like no like parental figure, nothing like that, no one to be like, Miguel, you're just like not sleeping at all. At that point, I based my sleep was the worst it's ever been. I was sleeping like maybe 3 to 4 hours a night. It was like a rookie mistake, really. And I did that for about a year, right? So I just kind of felt terrible. And then my second year of university, I tried sleeping a little bit more. I would sleep like 5 to 6 hours a night, and have some nights at like 3 to 4 hours, and it just still wouldn't be great. And then one thing that clicked with me is I started working with Austin Current. At first I coached alongside him with physique development, and he just put it so boldly that it clicked in my head. He was like, Miguel, you know all the research behind sleep. Physiologically, you know what it does for you. You know the neuroscience. What are you doing, man? You know you're being terrible. And like that clicked with me, because I was like, I know all this research and I apply it to everyone else, but not to myself. So ever since that moment, I just kind of started to sleep more. I still don't sleep 8 hours a night, because I just I can't do it. Either I have something to do, or like I'll wake up like 2 hours early and then just get excited about what I have to do during that day, and then I'll just go do it. But what I try to do most of the time is at least have a consistent level of sleep. Like now, what I try to do is I'll consistently sleep 6 hours a night. And to some people that might sound like insane talk because they say they might need 8 hours. But what I've found is that for me, that is an unrealistic expectation for me to set for myself, and I know I'm not going to follow it. So I rather just promise myself that I'm going to sleep at least 6 hours a night than just go try for 8, then just end up not doing it and getting frustrated and things like that. Now, that being said, for hypertrophy and for strength training and for sports, what I do is not optimal, and that is where it's kind of like the academic in me and the athlete in me kind of have to separate. If you are pursuing athletic endeavors and you want to maximize strength and hypertrophy and all those things, then the research is very clear in the fact that lack of sleep can directly inhibit hypertrophy and strength gains and skill acquisition, and you should probably aim for at least 8 to 10 hours of sleep per night. But because right now I'm in a point in my life where my academics take priority over almost anything, pretty much everything except family, I know that I need to sacrifice some sleep, even if it means missing out on some hypertrophy and strength gains. It's just a sacrifice that in my mind, it's not even an option to consider sleeping more for athletics because my academics are just so much more important to me.
Yes, I definitely can see that. It's like, for me, I'm in an opposite boat where with this degree, I'm probably not going to be a podiatrist. I don't think so. I'm still not sure. Maybe for a small period of time. And I'm willing to put everything into building fitness. It's like, I'm willing to spend my time doing podcasts instead of studying. It's like stuff like that. And I think that's kind of the sacrifice that I'm willing to make, but then I think I'm definitely more on the spectrum of like, I want hypertrophy so bad. Like it's not, for me, it's not not an option. But I guess in all these situations, it's like, okay, you have to evaluate your personal situation and what you're willing to give up. And I think it's very cool to see the amount of time you're putting into academia, because it's like, I think so many people want to just, okay, let me get the degree and then I'll just get out of there, like, and instead of actually trying to, like, doing all those research projects while being an online coach, while being an educator, it's like, that shit takes a toll, and it's cool. I mean, it's fascinating to see how much you're willing to give up, and I think, I'm not sure if it would be optimal if the whole world population did that, but I think we definitely need a small percentage of the population to do that. And I think I'm not as close to that line as I used to be. And I think, I don't know, I'm always trying to answer that philosophical question, right? It's like, okay, one, what's the point of life? 2, what makes me happy, like truly happy, and how do you even define that? And then how should I orientate myself through my day to achieve those things? And yeah, I think it's an extremely hard question to answer. Is there like any like books, resources, or people that have sort of guided that sort of belief system in you where you think, okay, I'm willing to sacrifice these things for this? And is there anything that sort of guided that?
There hasn't been anyone per se that has, been like, hey, Miguel, like, this is what you need to do, or a book that said this is what you need to do. More than anything, it is looking at the type of people that I think are the most impressive in the fitness industry, people that I really look up to, like Dr. Eric Helms and Dr. Mike Israetel and Menno Henselmans, Greg Nuckols. Another one that I really look up to is Andrew Vygotsky. Like, these people are what I call stupidly smart. Like, they're just so smart that it just blows your mind, and they know so much information. You bring up one topic and they are deciding you like 5 different studies.
Like, you ask Menno anything about anything and he will reference a fucking study. It's insane.
It's ridiculous. Like, I've had conversations, like I've talked to Menno and like brought up just the most random thing, and he actually has studies to back it up. So talking to people like that, I know that in order to get to that level, it is going to require an insane amount of work from my behalf. And rather than just being like, okay, well, they did this, they did that, I'm thinking, okay, well, I want to get to that point as quickly as possible. How do I do it? And that's just basically how I end up reading so much research and working with so many people, because I think that that is what is required for me to both grow my name as an educator and develop a knowledge base that is worth sharing with people.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's like, okay, what are the people that do what you want to do? What are they doing? And then you should do that. It feels pretty self-explanatory, and I think it's like so simple. The process of it's not simple, but like figuring out the sort of blueprint or template is, I think, relatively simple. Like, if you want to be somewhere, what are the people who are there doing, and what have they done? Probably easier to maintain it than get there, but what did they do in the past? And then mirror that, do that, like do something damn similar. And I think, like, it's undeniably true. That's just how you get to places. And I wish more of the general population was further along this line of like being a workaholic or whatever. Because I think people generally lack sort of passion in what they do nowadays, as we talked about. It's like they'll take a degree they don't like or a job they hate, and then they'll just do it, and they won't put any effort into it, any passion, any love. And it's like their mind isn't blown by what they do, which it blows my mind, man. It's like, I don't know, like I will leave a podcast and I'm like, you cannot wipe the smile off my face. Like, it's just like, I don't know, I just can't comprehend how people will do something they don't like continuously for years and years and years and years, and it takes up like what, 50% of your life, 70%. Like, I just can't comprehend that. And it's like, okay, maybe to get into a field that's competitive, you need to put in an extra amount of work, and you need to like a competitive and sought after career is hard to get, obviously, yes. And it's like only a certain amount of people can do these sought after careers. But how do you get there? And like, if you seriously like it that much, it's like, why not just put in the graft? Like, do that for like 4 or 5 years and then see where you are, reevaluate, do it again. It's like, I don't know. But then I guess there's always the question of like, a balanced life. And yeah, do you feel like you're sacrificing that balanced life?
I think that a balanced life is really relative to what the person considers to be what makes them happy. For example, right now, let's say that my time is divided 80% work and then 20% fun, or mostly time with family, really. That's kind of what I do when I'm not working or studying and doing, academic and work-related things. If I were to switch that around and try to incorporate like friends and partying and social events, like let's say, for example, I went like 33% school and then 33% family and 33% social events, like introducing that aspect of social events would both take away from the two things that I'm most passionate about, which is my work in academia, and from my family. So maybe introducing some aspect of friendships or a relationship in there would cause me to be more balanced from someone on the outside looking in, and being like, okay, this person pretty much spends equal time with his work and with his family and with his relationship and with everything else. This person has a balanced life. However, I wouldn't be happy doing that. If I could only dedicate like 30% of my life to my work and my school and my research, I wouldn't be happy at all. I would just be in a place where I feel like I'm not being productive and contributing to the fields in the way that I want to be contributing and advancing my career in the speed that I want to be advancing it in.
Do you feel like, in terms of the social aspect, this is something that really puzzles me, because back when I was for sure a workaholic, and I don't even know if I want to put any negative connotations to that word. It's just the best word to describe it. I had like 0 friends, and I had like no one that I really trusted, and I personally found that extremely difficult. And now I'm in more of a position where if I'm not working, which is most of my time, that be study or whatever, and if I'm not doing that, I'm probably with my like 3 best friends. And then apart from that, I'll go out every once in a while, and it's like where for you how much of the social aspect are you willing to sacrifice? And especially like something that I think we'll touch on after, but I think is such a difficult and complex topic for people of our sort of age demographic and that sort of 18 to 25-year-old ambitious person. It's so hard to juggle whether it be romantic or non-romantic relationships, because it's like, okay, there's always that feeling, and I definitely had this feeling like 6 months, a year ago, especially a year and a half ago, that people were a waste of time, and it's so hard to get over that. It's like, in a way they kind of are. If it's like, okay, hanging out with a person for 2 hours is 2 hours you could have been working, and it's, I think, very difficult to get over that fact. And it's like, because you cannot put, okay, like you can't be like, yeah, this will benefit my business in 5 years from now. It's like, it just won't. And I don't know, I think it's for certain people, I think it's a fundamentally incredibly difficult thing to get over. Have you felt any of that sort of feeling, or that sort of like, does that statement ring bells, or?
Yeah, I think at first I felt in a very similar way, where I just saw hang out with people as something that was taken away from my studying and work and research, and as a trade-off that I really wasn't willing to make. And I kind of had a very black and white version of it, where it's, okay, well, either I go hang out with people for all these hours and days and whatnot, or people that are just a complete waste of time. And since then, I've just kind of started to understand all the gray areas. And one thing that I think really helps me is that, apart from the research and wanting to contribute to humanity and exercise science and nutrition, one of my biggest goals in life is to just be kind and nice and loving to everyone that comes across my way. So what I do a lot of the times is just, I kind of assess things by situation. So for example, if it's my friend's birthday party and I know that it will mean a lot to them if I'm there, I'm going to go. Or if it's just a special event where all my friends are really excited and I know that it's going to mean a lot to them if I'm there, I'm going to go, because I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want anyone to feel like I'm ignoring them. And more what I try to do is just kind of make everyone in my life know that they are important to me. Because I think that when you are, quote unquote, workaholic, or when you spend so much time on working, the people around you can feel like they aren't important to you. But that can be very far from the truth. Yeah. So what I try to do is just through maybe small actions that mean a lot, or through words, or by just showing people certain things, I like to make people aware of the fact that, hey, maybe I'm not spending all this time on you, but I appreciate you. I appreciate you in my life, and I'm very happy that you're in my life, and I love interacting with you. But I apologize if I don't have all this time to interact with you. And that was something that was very hard for me at first, was the fact that people around me just didn't feel like I cared enough, and that was just so far from the truth. I just didn't have that time.
Yeah, I can completely, like, that sounds like you're reciting the story of my social life like a year and a half ago. It's like, and I sort of found the same solution. It's like, okay, but I think the friends and everyone else will get scared that they shouldn't reach out to you because they're like a waste of your time, or they're like, I've had my friends literally say to me before, like, oh, hey, I'm like, oh, hey, like, we don't hang out as much as we used to. Are you okay? Like, and then they'll be like, yeah, I just feel as though you're so busy that you don't have time to hang out or talk, or you don't want me to message you. It's like, and I think I can see how people get to that realization, or they sort of think, oh my God, that must be the thing. But it's so far from the truth, because it's like, I think everyone craves that genuine human interaction, and it's just, yep, I can't put 12 hours a day into this, but I can easily put 2 hours a week, like, for sure. And I definitely think that sort of gray area is very important, and I really liked how you touched on sort of the fact that, okay, pick and choose the special events. Like, do you guys have town? Like, would you guys call it town? Like when someone goes out on the town, like when someone drinks and goes out on a Friday or Saturday night. Yeah. Like if all your friends are just going out to town, you probably won't go. But then, like, if it's a special event, for sure. And it's like, that's, I think, a really cool balance. Or like, what I find really, really useful for me is taking, like, for instance, me and my friend, she's like my best friend. We go out and we will walk a dog, and like she's got this dog walking app, and we'll just walk a dog and not go on our phones, just talk to each other. And it's like the most nice thing, because you're sitting there in nature, walking dogs, talking. And it is like the most pure thing I can ever imagine. And then I think the essence of that is like if you just hang out with the people you care about one-on-one, get them into a good conversation, be vulnerable in the conversation, I feel like that is the underpinning of a good and high-quality relationship where you can seriously get to... Like, that's where you can get them, because I think people in our situation will... I mean, I think you're much further down the line and much more like work-focused. I definitely chill out more than I would like to. But I think people in our situation commonly will... Maybe this is just my thing. This is a pretty personal thing, but it's like I will feel as though the majority of people don't have much interesting things to say. But then the moment I get them into a deep and meaningful conversation, they'll be like, wow, that's a unique perspective that I didn't know existed. And until you get them there, you can't hear those perspectives, because people are only going to say the things that they're okay with saying publicly until you've got them vulnerable and you've been vulnerable, and then you've reached that level of trust. So it's like, to get to there, you have to reach that through a slow process of being vulnerable and trust, instead of just thinking, okay, they're just a boring person. Like, I don't think many people are actually very boring. I think most people have quite unique things to say, but you just have to actually figure out how to get it out of them. Would you generally agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in my thing that I just was talking about, just being nice and kind and giving everyone a really good chance. I've seen that really any person that you talk to for a longer period of time, any person that you just kind of find out more about them, whether it is maybe a prof or a student you never talked to, or even the janitor. Like, everyone has some sort of interesting story and interesting things to say. And if you're nice to someone, everyone around you is going to appreciate it and know that, oh, okay, cool, that this person, like, he's not just a busy asshole. He actually genuinely cares and he has a heart.
Yeah, and I think that's the impression that people in this situation can give off quite commonly. Like, yeah, it's very hard to manage that, to sort of give off the right impression, be like, hey, I still like human beings, like I'm not a fucking robot, although I'd like to be one. It's like, it's definitely, yeah. And one thing I thought is interesting is, I saw you talking on your story a while ago about, I don't know what it was phrased, but it was basically about relationships, like romantic relationships at this age, and you had a interesting stance on it. Do you want to go over that a little bit, and then I'll sort of comment and continue?
Yeah, for sure. So someone had asked me, hey, Miguel, like, you have all these achievements. I think they had phrased it something like, you're going to Columbia, you're doing research with Yale, UT Austin, you graduated from McGill, you sing, play guitar. Do the girls go crazy? And my answer to that was, initially, people are impressed by my achievements. Actually, no, I'll take that back. People are impressed by my achievements, not just initially. However, the amount of work that is required for me to have these achievements, for me to do research with all these Ivy League schools and work on all these cool projects, is so hardcore, and it requires so much of my time and attention and energy that although these things attract people and impress people, after a while, they just realize that this just requires so much out of me that I can't devote that much time to them. And they don't understand that. And it can become an issue, because this person starts to like you and starts to develop feelings for you and want to get to know you on a romantic level or otherwise, based on you being this impressive individual. But then when they realize the work that goes into you being that impressive individual, all of a sudden it becomes a battle of like, why do you have to put so much work into these things? Like, why are you doing this? Yeah. Spend some more time with me and stuff like that. I'm like, the things that you like about me are the things that I have to put all this time and effort and energy into. So that was one of the questions that I answered. And then I got another interesting question, and it was, why don't you try to have a girlfriend? It's something like that. And to that, my answer is, so based on what I've described, this comes from experience. I've been there, and what tends to happen is that because I just want to be nice and the best person I can to everyone around me, if I'm in a relationship, I want to be a good boyfriend. I want to be in a very good relationship. I want the other person to feel amazing and to feel like they have all my love and attention. However, because of the way that my life is structured right now, and because of the way that I have to spend so much time and energy and attention into my work, I can't realistically do that right now. Like, I can't be the type of partner that I would like to be if I were in a relationship. And this makes the other person feel neglected. So I choose to not be in a relationship because I don't ever want to be in a situation where a person feels like they don't matter to me. Because again, when I first started being so busy and doing all these things, I entered some relationships where I accidentally hurt people, and some people wanted to spend more time with me and just felt neglected, and I accidentally hurt their feelings, and I felt terrible. So now I've just kind of learned that, hey, I want to treat people a certain way, but I can't do that right now because I realistically don't have the time and energy to devote into that. So I'd rather not be in a relationship and wait until my life is a little bit less hectic to be in one. Or find someone who is just as busy as I am, and we are going to be able to understand each other. However, that person has not been found yet.
Man, that rings like mind-blowingly true. That is literally, that is like, it feels like that is the story of my love life. It is like, because it's such a fucking hard question to answer, because it's like, this is something I really want to speak to more people about, because it's like, how do you make that balance? How do you actually convey to someone, like, you're not, it's like, ever since I've been like this, it's like my relationships have been, it's felt like they are coming at the expense of my success, and that's where that whole mentality of like people are a waste of time, I think, came from for me. And it's like, fuck, it is the most difficult thing, because it's like, okay, people always say that, oh, a relationship should make things easier, but it's like, okay, really? Like, if you have to devote all this time to doing these things, the likelihood that you're going to be able to sustain that relationship, give them a few hours a week, it's like, man, when your stress levels are through the roof, how on earth are you going to, unless, like, because I think it's the balance of the amount of attention that they want. Like, I think most people want to hang out with their partner a lot. When they hang out, they want to be solely focused on them. It's like, I can't be half working or whatever. I can't be like writing emails or whatever. It's like, it's a mind-blowingly hard thing to balance, and it's like, fuck. I definitely haven't found a solution to that yet, and I think it's got to be the same solution that you sort of proposed. It's like, okay, either they have to realize how much you're willing to put in, or there has to be someone who is willing to put in these, like, they already do. Like, you don't want them to want to. I've been in a situation before where they've tried to sort of compete with the level of work I do, and it's like, most people don't want to do that shit. It's like, most people don't. It's like a terrible way for most people to live. But it's like, that's how you want to live, fucking do it. Like, but it's one of the trade-offs that I think it cannot be overstated. It's like, it's like, okay, I made a joke the other day on my Instagram. I was like, okay, in terms of Tinder, why is there no Tinder for like ambitious young people who lift or something? Like, it's just like, it's like, where the fuck do you find these people? No clue. And it's like, there's so few people like that. Yeah, it's a difficult thing to grasp in general, I would say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And hopefully now that I'm at these like big, if I don't find someone like that at these big Ivy League schools, I don't know where I'm going to find someone like that.
Fuck. Yeah,
I give up.
I was thinking like, okay, maybe like through Instagram evidence-based fitness or something, but it's like, nah, man, like, I don't know. That's just like, people look on there to work. It's like, fuck, no clue. Do you find like, is there, do you get that feeling like, for instance, I've got Tinder. Like, I go on Tinder, I think it's fun, but I find when I go on there, I'm like, shit, these people, like, they don't want to do anything extraordinary, and it's like, fuck, I wish there was a place to find people like that. It's like where they have a goal that seriously scares them, and it's like I feel like that's the foundation of all of this. And it's like most people have like their ambitions. I don't think scare them, which is fine for most people. But it's that then when that person goes in a relationship with someone whose ambitions do scare them, then that creates a fundamental divide, I would say.
Absolutely. I think that in general, people can't quite comprehend why you would want to spend so much time and energy into work. And I think that most people are almost trained to feel like work should be this like miserable thing, and you just kind of do it to get paid or to impress people and whatever. And one thing that I have struggled with in the past is people understanding that I am so passionate about the work that I do that this is fun for me and I am happy doing it. Because most people just they're miserable when they study. They get an internship just because whatever, this is what I need. They get a job just to pay the bills and don't feel happy doing any of it. They have a boss that they hate. However, I get to do what I love every single day, day in, day out. I get to talk with such cool people, both in fitness, outside of fitness, in exercise, nutrition, biomedical sciences. It's things that I would do for free, and I would do if it didn't give me a degree or a salary or anything like that. Like if right now I had a job as an accountant or something, I would still be trying to do the things that I do on the side because I love them so much. It would be my hobby. So I think that is one thing that people really struggle with, is just understanding that you can have work that you're so passionate about that you're genuinely happy with your life and how you are spending your time.
100%. It's like, for me, it's like non-negotiable to do this podcast. Like if this never culminates to something that I can make a career out of, it's like I'm pretty fine with that. Like I couldn't put a monetary value on the relationships that this has fostered, and the amount of times I've left a podcast just grinning. It's just like shit. Like this is where I met people like Steve, Jacob Skepis. It's like people like that. It's like shit. Like you can't put a monetary value on that. It's like these conversations consistently blow my mind because I find it's a lot of individuals that are like yourself. It's like ambitious, hardworking. They're passionate about what they do. They care. They have an honorable personality. It's like these people have such similar personality traits, and it's so mind blowing to speak to them on the regular. It's just like wow. Like it's like I feel like I'm cheating the system. It's like I feel like I've got it so good. Like being able to talk to these people for free for like an hour. It's like, it's I don't know. It's very. It's like every time I talk about this, it's like, oh my god, man, like it really gets me. It's just like shit. Like I get to sit down with these people that I call idols and then just talk to them like a person. It's like, I don't know, blows my fucking mind every damn time. Yeah. Is there anything? One thing. I'll do a somewhat organic transition. Is there anything in terms of like? Because I think a lot of people kind of bash education and academia a decent amount, and it's like especially in fitness, it's like you'll have the bros who'll be like, fuck, research can't tell you shit, etc., etc. But then you even have society of people like Gary Vee saying, oh, don't do a degree, waste your time, they're all waste your time, blah blah blah. And then it's like I feel maybe it's just in my country it's so prevalent because there's a big push towards making more people tradies instead of university, and it's like kind of I find it's kind of looked down on to do higher education somewhat. Like the way I hear people talk about people with PhDs, it's like people act like it's all this self-centered ambition to get yourself a doctorate, the name of a doctor. It's like it baffles me. Have you had with that? Is there like what's your sort of counter argument to that, and the context you think is important there?
I think that especially in fitness and industries such as fitness, where we see a lot of young entrepreneurs who are just kind of jumping over to this and leaving their sort of quote unquote main careers. There's a lot of talk about just education being unnecessary and you just need like these certifications or you just need to read these certain books or studies. The problem with that, and a problem that I encounter quite consistently, is that the difficulty in that is that you don't have anything that just systematically puts you through all the steps and gives you the knowledge in a really appropriate stepwise function that is required to cover all bases and all topics. And oftentimes, when I am arguing with someone who doesn't have a background in nutrition or exercise or physiology, neuroscience, stuff like that, they make arguments that on a basic physiology level are wrong. And it is not something that you can find in a study. It is not something that you can really know too much about it. If you're trying to learn about the main topics, you're never going to find these things. It is things that are encountered in like textbooks and lectures and things that just professors pass on to you. But people make these blatant errors that just make it so obvious that they don't actually quite understand the topic in as thoroughly as they should. Things like talking about like basic biochemistry things that are just wrong, steps that they ignored, basic enzymes that they ignored, just these different constructs that people just have no knowledge of. I think that it is incredibly difficult to gain a systematic knowledge of everything that you have to know in order to practice nutrition and exercise. And of course, you're never going to know everything, but I mean, like most things. I think that it is possible, and I talked about this on my story the other day, that if you happen to have not gotten an education in exercise and nutrition, and the time has come, you're like 35 years old now and you want to switch over to this area, you don't really want to go back to school, I think that it is possible, and I think that you can be a damn good coach without having an education in exercise and nutrition. However, it's just that much more difficult. And in people that have spoken to that don't have an education in this, they wish they had an education in this. And at times they might feel even a little bit self-conscious about the fact that they don't have an education in this. I know some really high-level people in this industry, who I won't reveal names, who have told me that they feel self-conscious about the fact that at the end of the day, they do not have a degree in this and they've never pursued research or pursued this on a higher level, and typically just like refer out to people who have. I think that a PhD really is a research degree. Like, the reason you should get a PhD, of course you get a PhD because you want to have a doctor in your name. Like, we can't ignore the fact that that's really, really cool. But also, it's a research degree. A PhD is something for if you have a burning question, or if you have a set of burning questions that you want answered, but there are no answers, and you just like, you cannot sleep with yourself until you have those answers. That's when you do a PhD, is because you really just want to find out more about a certain topic that you love. You want to be able to contribute to the field, maybe help some folks out, or just help out science in general. And that's where I am. I'm at a point where I want my research to be able to be used in both exercise settings and clinical settings. I want my research to help a wide scope of people and know that at the end of the day, I contributed something to the world, to exercise, and to humanity.
Damn. I wish I could like copy and paste that argument and then put it to people when they're like, oh, university is a waste of time. I 100% agree. I think you raised some very good, unique points that I think, especially in fitness, it's very easy to be like, oh, well, I'm jacked myself. Like, I can get other people jacked for sure. But it's like if I use myself as an example, I mean, I am not by any means the most jacked individual. I've made some okay progress, but it's like I thought when I'd made some progress that then that gave me the right, not only the right, but like the ability to adequately teach others. And it's been a real wake-up call. It's like once the Dunning-Kruger effect really set in, it's like once I was at the bottom of the valley talking to extremely intelligent people, you realize how much you don't know. Like, if you have a conversation with Eric Helms about anything to do with exercise science, it's like, one, he's going to be dumbing it down. Two, even when he's dumbing it down, it's like shit. And it's like, like, it's just, and I've commonly got annoyed about this, but I'm not sure if that's the right thing to do. Is the pure lack of knowledge in terms of exercise science, nutrition, etc. And the majority of most coaches, or a large amount of coaches. Obviously, there's some fantastic examples, but it's like people will disregard exercise science or nutrition science at an academic level, and then they will go ahead and then try and use research and use research, but they're nitpicking studies. It's like, okay, if you actually give a fuck about science, use it damn properly. It's like, man, the amount of times, especially recently, I've seen people that I respect just nitpick the shit out of a study and use it to prove their already held belief. It's like, geez, man, it's like, come on, like, it's like, okay, do you believe in science? Then don't disrespect people that actually go and learn how to do it properly. It's like fundamental.
No, absolutely. And I mean, that's exactly when people just make mistakes interpreting studies that they really they don't have the right tools to do it. Yesterday I was arguing with a gentleman who was sending me studies on muscle protein synthesis, and he was arguing for a certain supplement that had like a combination of a few grams of whey hydroisolate plus some essential amino acids, and he was telling me, well, this spiked muscle protein synthesis just as much as 25 grams of whey, so therefore BCAAs are beneficial, and they can stimulate protein synthesis, and you can build just as much muscle on just EAAs plus a little bit of whey isolate. What they hadn't looked at is that the study actually looked at both the stimulation of muscle protein synthesis and then the elongation steps of muscle protein synthesis. So they did that by looking at several like elongation factors and key regulatory enzymes and stuff like that. Things that if you weren't educated in this, you just would not know about, because it would seem like a whole bunch of jargon and a whole bunch of accumulated letters like EIF4, like stuff like that, things that no one would have
no
any knowledge
fucking
of.
clue, yeah.
And that's exactly when it becomes blatantly clear that someone hasn't had an education in this, because they make assumptions based on papers and based on other readings that they just that don't have the right tools to break down thoroughly. Or when someone goes through an article and gets the wrong conclusions from it, or writes an article with the wrong conclusions. Sometimes it's not their fault. It's just the fact that they are trying to just utilize tools that haven't been developed yet, and they try to get all these conclusions from things that they just have no functional knowledge of. They just kind of try to say what's worked for them. And actually I had a good post about this a few days ago, where I threw out a genuine question, which is, well, why do so many unqualified people feel like they can just transition into fitness? Because that's what we're seeing right now. We're just seeing so many people come into fitness, and it's ridiculous. Everyone is doing it. And
it's rampant.
I've just been thinking over the last few months, like, why? What is it about fitness and nutrition that is attracting everyone to leave their jobs and want to be a coach, right? Even if everyone is a good coach, like what is it about this? And what I arrived to, and what I posted in the Instagram post, was, I think that it's because everyone has to eat and everyone practices some level of exercise on a frequent basis. Like, everyone eats. You have to eat every single day. So when you do something every single day, you tend to develop beliefs around it. And when you exercise frequently, you tend to develop some beliefs around it and tend to develop things that work. And especially when we start to consider cultural beliefs about foods or things that your parents told you and stuff like that, we can really get into some classical conditioning with regards to eating behaviors and beliefs around food. I think that because everyone has this, everyone eats because of a certain way, they develop these sort of beliefs and rules about it, and then they feel like they can go ahead and speak about those to other people and get them results, and that it will give them whatever they think will give them. I think that if we were to talk about a topic like astrophysics, that is just kind of protected by the fact that not everyone does astrophysics on a regular basis. Like, if for some reason we all had to do astrophysics, I'm sure that everyone would start to get some dumbass beliefs about astrophysics.
Yeah.
But because we don't, like, it's just protected by the fact that people respect it as an incredibly hard topic.
Yeah.
Because
people
everyone
can't get that. Like, the barrier to entry is pretty fucking high. It's like, I couldn't tell you one thing about astrophysics, but the average person on the street can probably maybe tell you something about exercise or nutrition, whether it's correct or not. It's like, they can have an opinion, and it's relatively easy to think that it's simple.
Exactly, but there's so much behind it. Like, there's so much science and biochemistry and physiology behind it that people, for some reason, just look at things on a surface level. It's almost like if people started to talk about, like, astrophysics on a surface level, and real astrophysicists were like, what the hell are you talking about? This does not make any sort of sense, you know? It's the same thing when people just see, like, the surface level, try to interpret something that they read on, like, Oxygen magazine, and just pass it off as evidence-based knowledge.
Yeah, fuck. It's like when I go to the gym and then, like, because people at my sort of gyms will know that I do this stuff, and then they'll think, oh yeah, I'm going to try to talk to James about this kind of stuff. Yeah, we're going to try have a conversation about programming. They'll come up and say something, and I'm like, oh, fuck, you're just trying to use big words. It's like, Jesus Christ, if you don't know what it means, don't fucking say it. Oh, it's just like, for fuck's sake, like, just, it's like, it's, oh my God, it's crazy, man. It's like, I guess everyone who has that little, like, they'll have a little transformation, they'll gain some muscle or they'll get stronger, and now they'll think they're qualified to, like, to teach people. It's like, a good example is like my good friend Chris. Like, he has had a fantastic fucking transformation. He just got 6th place in the 74s at IPF Worlds. Fucking strong guy. Like, and he's been powerlifting for like a year or 2 years. Like, ridiculous. Like, he's got a fantastic story, and he's doing his masters at AUT. And I believe he just put out a study with Helms, possibly. I might be wrong there. Or maybe the exercise. Maybe the proposal, I think. Not sure. Very, very clueless there. But it's like, he's got the experience, so tick that box. And people will usually just run with that and say, okay, I have the experience. And then Dunning-Kruger effect makes them think they know everything. And then they don't even think about higher education whatsoever. It's just like, okay, you don't need to go and get your master's, but like, maybe get some kind of qualification. Like, something. It's just like, fuck, like, it's kind of unreasonable to think, okay, I don't even need to do an undergrad because people just act like it's filled with bullshit. It's like, it's just not. Like, if you do a good undergrad program, like, it's good. Like, if I wanted to be a podiatrist, I would wholeheartedly recommend this program. All we've done is shit that's relevant. It's just like, everything we've learned, I've been able to apply into practice. It's just like, you know, like, there's so many misconceptions around higher education nowadays. And then you throw in the clusterfuck that is like Instagram fitness. It's just, it's like, man, it's like us evidence-based people. We don't want it to be like culty, right? We don't want it to be like just us and all buddy-buddy, but it's like, we want people to respect evidence, and we want people to understand how the shit actually works. And we're trying to always run that balance, you know, like, we're trying to figure out how to get people into evidence-based fitness without making them think it's such a massive barrier to entry that we're just a cult and you need a PhD to even speak. It's like, no, but it's like, maybe respect evidence, maybe understand some of the fundamentals, and then if you don't know as much as someone else, act as the student. And it seems like that's a very good way to go about it. It's like, when I'm talking to Helms, I don't assume any kind of like, I'm not going to ever pretend that I'm going to know more about him on any subject related to this whatsoever. Like, it's just very, very, very rare that's going to happen. And it's something that needs to be accepted and respected.
Absolutely. And I think that we spoke about, you know, people believing that you need to have a PhD before you're even allowed to speak in this topic. That is very untrue. And to just give people an example, when I was in my first year of my nutritional biochemistry degree, I had already published twice in the Alan Aragon Research Review. I had started working with Dr. Lane Norton. I had started writing for Mark Lobliner at the time, who was really big because of Tiger Fitness. I don't know if he's even that popular anymore, but he was at the time. And then in my second year in my degree, I was working with Menno Henselmans, Jeff Nippard, Stephanie Buttermore, Austin Current, and in that later on that year, I joined Revive Stronger. So it's not something where you need to have, a master's and PhD before you're even allowed to speak, but you do need to have a very good foundation of knowledge. I might be an exception because I had pretty much gained an undergraduate level of knowledge by just asking so many darn questions to my professors and chasing everything and reading textbooks and research obsessively. But by the time that I had graduated my bachelor's degree, which was like 3 to 4 months ago, I was pretty much in the exact same situation where I'm right now. And people give me all those opportunities because I proved myself, and I proved that I am a very hardworking individual who studies these things at an obsessive level. And now, really, that I'm in my master's degree, the only difference is that I'm publishing research. That's the big thing, is that now I have a couple of papers in the works, but everything else in terms of who I'm working with in the fitness industry is still the same.
Boom. Yeah, I think it's definitely like, it's always the balance between like, okay, imposter syndrome, and then actually not knowing what you're talking about and sort of figuring out where the heck you sit on that. And I think I'm quite lucky in that regard because I have people like Steve, like Helms, sort of telling me like, okay, no, like, you're not an idiot. Like, you have some understanding of this stuff, and that is cool. And then also that balances with like me treating them as mentors and like learning from them. And it's like, I think it kind of keeps you in check of sort of figuring out where you sit on that sort of spectrum. And yeah, and I think that's like, for any ambitious person, if you can get some people that you respect and look up to, and you can speak to them on sort of a student-mentor relationship, it's like, man, that really, really helps, because they'll, especially if you can get them to be honest with you, and you get them not to be scared to be honest with you whatsoever, it's like mind-blowingly powerful. But yeah. So, do you have any last comments on that point? Or I think, cool. Should we?
Yeah, I think that was an awesome point, in that when you start to work with people, like the people I have worked with, for example, writing stuff for Alan or Lane, doing research for Jeff and Stephanie and stuff like that. If I were to put anything that was even like remotely questionable or wrong in any way, shape, or form, they would detect it in like half a second flat and be like, "What are you talking about?" So it's nice to be able to work with someone who is going to call you out on your bullshit. So,
Yeah,
especially people
sure.
like Lane and Alan and Menno. Like, if I said one untrue thing, I'm pretty sure Menno would like make someone cry. So it's just awesome to be able to talk with these people and be in their presence. And when you talk about something fitness related, then just kind of nod their heads and agree. And it's just a really cool thing to do. And I recommend that if you have any sort of chance to be mentored by one of these people that you look up to, 100% do it, because I found that to be the quickest thing that got rid of imposter syndrome. Is just, okay, well, all these people just agree with what I'm saying, and I'm having new ideas all the time that these people seem to respect. Cool. It's just, I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's a hard place to get to, man. It's like, even with podcasting, it's like I'd get people messaging me being like, hey, like, tips for podcasting, and I'm like, shit, like, for a while I was like, I have no fucking clue how to do this shit. Like, I'm a terrible podcaster. And then it's like, after a while I was like, okay, like, I've done like over 100 episodes. I actually think I'm getting pretty good at this. And it's like, I think it's with any skill. It's like, you're going to feel that for so long, but if someone gives you a compliment, they probably do actually mean it, especially if it's about like a academic pursuit or just anything you're doing in terms of like working hard at a thing to get better at that thing. It's like, take those things on board and figure out how to get criticism from people who should give you criticism, not from like YouTube comments or whatever. But
yeah, you should try submitting something for peer review. That is when you really know. That's the highest level of that's what really gets rid of imposter syndrome, is when you actually submit a peer-reviewed paper. Oh man! Or like the other day, I've been doing a lot of work on statistical analyses, and that was the biggest. That's probably the most I felt imposter syndrome in a while, when I was like actually conducting I was actually conducting statistical analyses that are going to be submitted into like these big journals, and just seeing my supervisors be like, "Yeah, this looks good. Awesome handling of the data. This is great." It's like, are you sure? Because everyone in most people in science are intimidated by statistics. That's like a very scary topic that most people don't have a functional knowledge of.
Yeah.
Even high level researchers I had a professor last year who enrolled himself in an undergraduate statistics class every semester just so he wouldn't forget that knowledge.
The same class.
So it's something that's incredibly hard. So when I was able to do this and do these like complex statistical analyses, I was like, can someone please double check this? And everything was all good. So I guess I'll just have to do that a few more times, and maybe I'll feel like it's adequate.
Okay, fantastic. Cool. Yeah, I definitely I'm scared to get into anything in terms of that because mind-blowingly scary. These conversations always get me super hyped to get into my masters. It's like, damn, like that world just seems fascinating, and I'm hyped, man. Very, very hyped. But yeah, I think we'll end off here. So, where can people find you? Where can people find everything, Miguel?
So you can follow me on Instagram at mblacutt, that is MBLACUTT, where I post the latest research findings in nice infographics and do a lot of stories and Q&As and such. You can find me on my website, Miguel Blacutt, miguelblacutt.com, and you can also inquire for coaching with us at revivestronger.com. If you go there, you can submit a form, and you can get linked up to be coached by either myself, Steve Hall, Pascal Floor, or Ryan Solomon.
Hey guys, thank you very much for listening to this episode. I hope you give us a review or you really enjoyed the episode. Let me know any feedback. I'm always open to any criticism, anything like that. Reach out to me on Instagram at James_Walsham. Or if you'd like to follow my business account, follow at the Hypertrophy Hub. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you would like to help the show, there's a list of ways to do so in the show notes. But if you're wondering how, the best thing to do is just give us a review on iTunes or just let me know how the show can be improved. Thank you very much.